We're in a bear market, but you guys are still growing. So there should be a cheat code. There should be like a like a script like that you're following, and I want that alpha. Hello, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Hodl Up. Today with us we have Sylvan from Scrypt. Sylvan, I'm really grateful that we have you today. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, of course. So before we start and we get into the serious part of crypto, I really want to know about like your journey before crypto
Yeah.
and then how you co-founded Scrypt and everything. So please give us a TLDR on everything.
Okay, sure. Yeah. I grew up in Switzerland. I'm Swiss there. Before crypto, I was a professional musician. I studied jazz. I had my own band. I'm playing the saxophone. I had my whole, let's say, music life in Switzerland, where I toured around. Was quite, let's say, in that scene overall, and did eventually the jump to crypto. So it's a bit unconventional. However, what really made the difference for me at some point is we had a project in the university which was around the music business, and we needed to find some ways of how we would approach it. And my idea at this time was to create or use smart contracts to solve the problem of bands always having disputes in the long term over royalties. And I was like, hey, I know this new technology. A friend of mine told me about it. Why don't we, implement a setup like this, where you say, whoever contributed to the song gets a certain fixed percentage, and the payments are distributed on chain whenever there's, royalties paid. So that would alleviate the problem of having bands falling in disputes like Beatles and all the big names. At later point of saying, no, it was my song, or it was my song, and so on. And I found myself being more passionate about this than actually, practicing my instrument for 8 hours a day. And then realized I can open the door, which has so much more opportunities to really learn and deep dive. And I managed to find an opportunity to move to London to start or help a project more on a consultancy basis with blockchain, smart contracts, all the different areas. And I said, hey, let's give it a try.
Yeah.
And that kind of was the start of the journey to then get back to Switzerland to co-found Scrypt with my partner, Norman. In the beginning, we didn't really have the idea of the whiteboard and saying, okay, this is what we're going to do. We got to know each other during events in London. We just started to hang out and we brainstormed. We were both same age, early 20s, ambitious, eager to do something, and kind of worked our way through the crowd. And then at some point we realized that actually we have quite an interesting knowledge about where and how you can buy crypto, open accounts, what it means to own or set up a hardware wallet, how do you get access to Bitcoin and we realized that hedge fund guys in London were asking us questions of how to do that. And we were always eager to explain to them, you have to open an account at Binance, and we didn't even use the referral links back in the day, like we were talking about other people having those Lambos or whatever they give out at 2018, and we're like, actually we're missing something. We should do that ourselves, offer them a platform or a regulated interface where we can accept their capital and, manage their money afterwards. And that kind of was the starting point of what Scrypt is today. And we said we have to want to do it in a compliant and regulated manner, and not just, playing cat and mouse with banks or all those institutions which will come, and looked at different jurisdictions, what is best to set up the company, and eventually come back to Switzerland from a regulatory perspective in 2020. 2019 was the most forward-looking, made the most sense. So we said, okay, let's go back to Switzerland and start it there.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like, to the best of my knowledge, a lot of crypto banks and neobanks are located in Switzerland because of the more pro regulations towards crypto and stuff. And I really respect the fact that you entered crypto because of a need that you had, based on the background that you have on music. As a wannabe musician myself in the past, I really respect that. So, so speaking of Scrypt being this regulated interface, what can you tell us about the current trend of the regulation? I mean, yes, we've seen Mika being implemented last year. We've seen the CARF reporting framework being introduced in over 100 countries, and I mean, it's nice to have a uniform approach, for example, in Europe, but at the same time, more barriers are introduced, or less privacy is for the retail, and so on and so forth. So I really want to hear your take. Like, how do you guys view all of the things that are currently going on? Not just, I mean, in Europe, but also in the West and also in developing countries and so on.
Yeah, good question. I think we, because we were so early and regulation, specifically Europe, was not existent or non-existent. There was some vast frameworks. The UK tried every year something new, but didn't really take off. Switzerland had a risk-based approach, very innovative, forward-looking, which allowed stuff to happen. And what I appreciate about the regulatory frameworks there is that whenever the regulator, specifically FINMA, is coming up with a new guidance, they first issue a paper and people can comment on it. So we have tons of different associations. Some say too many, for sure fair, but at least those associations take the initiative to try to find a middle ground between what the industry needs and what the regulator wants. And this communication or dialogue is what is important, right? We realized that when we applied for an additional license as a portfolio manager in Switzerland with the activities to do DeFi, which was unique at that time. And it took us 2 years for reasons, but the regulator was open to our communication and to our approach of how we would structure it. And I think that what made the difference. And you see that in Europe eventually. The positive side is you have a unified regulation, which you can passport to all member states and EA states. So that should be the end goal, right? However, each jurisdiction still gives you different challenges to enter. And why, right? So or you have a unified approach or not. And you see that of where the hubs, where all the players get MiCA regulation or regulated, right? Germany, obviously, very difficult. Malta is one, Ireland is one, France is one. But then you have all these other states which are not really moving forward. Why? Because there's no enforcement agency or institution to, do that. You mentioned CARF. It's total surveillance and control about anything what happens on chain, right? So really, we may as well just use CBDC.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of all these other tokens, right? It's a bit unfortunate, but on the other side, this is what regulators need and want.
You mentioned CBDCs, and now I want to touch upon that as well, because back in 2022 when they started being trendy in news articles and everything, I did some research and I saw countries like China are actually piloting them in different regions. And with the rise of stablecoins nowadays, we say that we're free from CBDCs and we're safe from them in the West. But if you take a look at it, and if you take a look at CARF as well, it's literally CBDCs but issued by private issuers, which again can be legally forced to do what they would have done if they had CBDCs as well. So I don't know, I'm kind of scared, to be honest, about the future of crypto in the West, of course, because it's literally going a bit against the very nature of crypto, let's say. Having the power to the people, whatever, the freedom of financial freedom and everything. But yeah, that's my time to vent, guys, sorry.
But you have to understand on that front as well, I understand and I feel you, because usually crypto was, the initial enthusiasm was we create a different financial system, which is not the same as what we used to know.
Yeah.
And at some point, the whole community, or a large part of it, was saying, well, we want Wall Street to be part of it. So now we have it,
Yeah.
and we also need to live with the consequences of what it comes with it, right? So regulation is here, Wall Street is here, the big boys are making the bets, right? It's not about how decentralized Bitcoin is. It's like how much BlackRock and Strategy and those guys are putting in their ETFs and buying, right? Because that is currently the price mechanism, right? That will change in the future too, but we asked for it, we got it eventually, so we also need to deliver the consequence. But yes, the underlying ethos of the decentralization, the DeFi, or why crypto was there and the enthusiasm was there, has a bit died down. And obviously, we as a financial intermediary, which try to bridge both worlds in, okay, we give access to the TradFi world, to the on-chain world. Essentially, we shouldn't be needed because there shouldn't be any intermediaries anymore, because that's exactly the point of having on-chain and being peer-to-peer. But regulated interfaces are still what the family offices and banks and so on want to interact with, because it's a world which is scary, which it has very new technology, which you need to learn and understand, and that's kind of how what we navigate and give them the ease of mind, essentially.
Yeah, so now that you mentioned the interfaces, I want to go more into Scrypt, and I want to ask you more about what you noticed, in terms of user behavior changing over the past, let's say, a few years. So yeah, I mean, institutions and whoever could be your client, I really want to know how that's evolving in their eyes and then in your eyes as well.
Yeah. Maybe to pick that up differently is, we started purely as a trading OTC desk on off ramping, and out of this we then developed further product verticals to it. Today we say we're the operating system for digital assets. Why am I saying this? Is in the beginning we had clients using Bitcoin for payments and buying and selling that more. There was a time, you see that also in the different cycles of the industry. Right? You guys are in the industry for more than 5 years. Same for me. There was the altcoin bubble or bloom, so to say, and we saw that also in our clients' behavior. Right? Suddenly they're asking for coins which we didn't even know they existed. Right? We managed to solve their needs, and we had all these crazy trading pairs. But what happened over the past couple of years is everything switched to stablecoins. So obviously a large client or base is payment service providers on our side, which use stablecoins for cross-border payments, remittances, and those kind of things, which need an off-ramp or an on-ramp or a conversion angle. And that's where we come in play. But that's kind of the development we see, and all those fancy coins, altcoins or meme coins, they were like hype, have then disappeared.
Wait, so someone actually used meme coins for settlement?
No, I mean, those obviously are more speculative traders, or they have we service some fintech apps which have a platform themselves, which offer to retail a universe of coins, right? And suddenly you have huge volumes in Peppercoin.
Yeah.
Right? But it's not because someone uses actually Pepper to, pay a cargo ship or something.
Yeah, well, I've been following you guys for quite a while, and I've seen you guys growing quite a lot over the recent months as well. And could you talk us a little bit about some of your products that might differentiate you from your competitor set, or any new features that we might expect in the coming months? I mean, if you're allowed to say it here.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's always the key question, right? What is the differentiation factor? I think there's many players out there which have a trading desk or are better in some ways. There's players which focus on a specific niche. What we try to do is to give a single point of access in some ways, where we say, okay, regulation and compliance is a key mode for us. So we have also regulatory setups in Europe, MiCA. It's a need to have, not a want to have in some ways. And that kind of place of, okay, you we have operated since 7 years. We have not lost any money. We have, do not have any fines or any problems with the regulators. We were doing our job diligently, and I think that creates that trust element, which is something clients from an institutional perspective are looking for as well. And on that basis, we were building the company. Then to answer your second question of what are the new features or what are the new elements we're putting out, I mean, at the moment we're focusing on DeFi asset management. So Tesseract just made an announcement of like the vault creation, fully segregated. We already do that, right? We have not screamed it from the rooftop yet, but there is something there as well. So we try to be innovative where we can, but within our regulatory guidelines or guardrails, and then adopt this to the industry, where we can also say a family office is interested and it's still cool, right?
Yeah.
I think you just gave me like an idea.
Yeah.
So like create some sort of stamps or something for example, for companies that have been around for, let's say, more than 5 years. They get like a stamp, and that makes like the differentiation aspect easier, because it does make a huge difference for a company like yours that has been around for quite a while and has not had any issues in terms of regulations and has been quite transparent about things. So that should be like the whole selling point in itself, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I would love to have the stamp. Yes, please make it happen. I mean, it's that. You know, you guys started some time ago. When we started, we were myself and my co-founder, and obviously you need to prove yourself, right?
Yeah.
And you need some time. We did bootstrap. We did it all ourselves. We had no external funding. We needed to prove ourselves first that we can do it. And once we got to that level and we started to hire a team and got bigger client base, you realize that you actually have some product market fit. You have a business model which works, and it's becoming a business. And then you also fast forward 7 years in, and the conversations you're having with the same institutions you had 5 years ago is completely different, just because you survived in some ways, right? Of course, growth and everything helps as well, but just because you're still around. Yeah. And that in itself in this industry means you have done some elements correct.
Yeah, so now I want to go more general, to be honest, because we're in a bear market, but you guys are still growing. So there should be a cheat code. There should be like a a script like that you're following, and I want that alpha. Like how do you guys keep on building when most companies are literally like laying off everyone? And they're just dying basically. Yeah, for real.
Well, it wasn't always the case, right? We have made some good financial decisions to maintain our capital, and we always wanted to keep the people on board and not just, let them go because we saw no other ways. I mean, there has been a time where also we were considering or looking at, okay, how long do we have left in some ways? But I think that's normal startup journey. I mean, how to answer it? One of the key things to solve any of your problems is sales.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Mark Cuban is saying it. All the other, famous guys are saying it. If sales works, then you have no problems.
Yes.
And even in a bear market where everything is down, yes, some of your clients will not be as active or lower their activity, but the end number of clients is higher, meaning you still have a good baseline, right? And that allows you obviously to use those period of times to keep investing and keep building. Yes, it helps. We have raised capital throughout the journey as well. Obviously, that gives us some comfort and some, decision-making power to say, okay, we keep investing, or we're making additional bets, or this is the time to double down and to come out stronger when, the bulls are coming back. But that's kind of the mix of making sure, yes, from a company management perspective, you're making the right decisions. Not always the case, but you learn from it. But also having a good sales pipeline which keeps the lights on.
Okay, so guys, if you want your business to work, hire good salespeople. Okay, so
We're terrible souls.
yeah, we're terrible salespeople. I mean, okay, so Sylvan, to wrap it up, I really want to know, like in the next 5 years to 10 years, what do you think will happen with the regulations in Europe? I mean, in the West in general, because I think the East is like not that unified when it comes to regulations at this point in time. That's basically it. I mean, from your perspective.
I mean, America is kind of, pushing the rails now with all the Genius Act, Clarity Act, stablecoin bills. I think that will kind of spit over to Europe as well more. Europe has its framework. They will keep on defining or refining this. I hope that the passporting element becomes easier, that there is, more uniformity across all member states, that it's not, that it doesn't matter where you got the MiCA license.
Yeah.
It matters that you have it,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Because there are still certain jurisdictions which have a different financial reputation than others. But it shouldn't matter because MiCA is MiCA, right?
Yeah.
But conception and reality are two different things. Switzerland will have an adoption on different regulatory setups because they realize MiCA is slightly more stronger. They need to, catch that wave too in some ways. That kind of is the consolidation there. Africa is a new space where a lot of the jurisdictions start coming up with frameworks. So that's kind of a development I'm seeing in the next 5 years, where there is some more unified regulatory setups happening.
I mean, I just hope it doesn't become like dystopian. that's basically what I'm hoping for. All right, Sylvan, thank you very much for joining us today. We look forward to basically you growing and having you on our podcast again, virtually or maybe in another conference. So thank you again.
Yeah, thank you guys. It was super fun.